On my immediate left is Elaine Kwon, who is the founder of Kwontified, an e-commerce consulting firm based in Seattle. Kwontified specializes in working with brands in fashion, lifestyle, and beauty to grow sales and a brand's influence online. Elaine started her career in the e-commerce field at Amazon, where she managed the luxury division of Amazon Fashion. Today, Elaine will be discussing Kwontified and the opportunity in the e-commerce industry. So would you please join me in welcoming Elaine?
All right, how's everyone doing today? Good morning. First, a huge thank you to Syracuse University and the Austro Group for organizing this. Thank you for having Ari and myself here today. So I'm here to talk to you guys about Kwontified and specifically about how we approach the go-to-market strategy for a company like this. It is specifically a B2B e-commerce consulting firm, and we specialize in brands that exist in the fashion, lifestyle, and beauty industries. And so, whereas a lot of tech firms that you hear about are direct-to-consumer, consumer-facing, we specialize in the B2B industry. So some of you might think, okay, so how are you making your money? What problems are you trying to identify? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So first, can someone answer for me, what is e-commerce? E-commerce is defined as commercial transactions conducted electronically on the internet. But we both know that the world of e-commerce that we reference is much more nuanced and complicated than that. In fact, one of the big problems that we identified here, specifically and especially in the industries that we work in, is that it's a very different landscape and playing field than the world of traditional brick and mortar. And so let's say you're an established business in fashion or beauty. You understand your retail channels. You've established those relationships and you understand, hey, this is how much it's gonna cost me to grow my business. And if things don't go well, I know how to work on it. I can expect certain downturns during these times of the year. But now all of a sudden, the digital age creeps up on you, and this may present a daunting and new venture for you. How do you now start playing in the digital field? A lot of high-end luxury brands surprisingly have avoided getting on the internet up until more recently for the sole fact that they are afraid of losing control. In brick and mortar, you can influence control over pricing. So you know generally, hey, this is the general range which my product will be sold at. I have an agreement with these different retailers. They know how we're gonna work. Similarly, you work with the retailer to craft a narrative for your brand. So the retailer will then tell customers, check out this great brand. It's elegant, it's modern, it's minimalist, whatever it is that you decide with that retailer. And that is how department stores like Nordstrom's, Macy's, JCPenney's have become the gargantuan businesses they are today. But in the digital world, in e-commerce, that is completely disrupted. As you know, with improved technology, large e-commerce platforms can search all their competitors' sites daily, hourly, and see how their products are being priced. And if they see a better price somewhere else, they will not only match, but oftentimes lower the price in order to be the best offer on the market. And that hurts your bottom line. Secondly, the idea of you having sole control over your brand narrative is no longer. With the rise of customer reviews, star ratings, and recommendations, consumers trust other consumers more than they will trust a single retailer to tell them how to feel about a brand. So here's one half of the problem. If you're an established brand, how do you overcome this fear? How do you get yourself online and do it well? Now on the flip side, let's say you're a new brand. You are a startup jewelry designer, or you are a direct-to-consumer basics apparel line like Everlane. Okay, you decide, I have my niche, this is what I'm trying to do. But before you can get started, you have to decide what's the chicken or the egg. Is it going to be brick and mortar, or are you going just to establish your online business? Now, let's say you decide, okay, I want some guaranteed foot traffic. I'm gonna go to a brick and mortar, try to strike a partnership. Nowadays, a large retailer like Nordstrom, for example, won't even look at you unless you have an established, strong online presence, unless certain thousands or hundreds of thousands of people are looking for you already and buying from you already. So there's your catch-22. On the flip side, let's say, okay, you know what, we're gonna build this just online right now. How do you compete with the mega brands that have hundreds of thousands, sometimes more, dollars just to advertise, just to bid on those words? So how do you make something out of nothing? This is the problem that we have seen, not just on one particular e-commerce platform, but across many. And so through this is where we come in. This is the problem that we've identified. The next step for us was to understand, how do we determine the market size of this problem? How do we determine a go-to-market strategy? How do we make money? And so this is when we started looking at some numbers. Last year alone, about $300 billion in retail sales occurred online. In less than 2 years, it's expected to go to $414 billion. On top of that, 60% of adult Americans like having alternative online options. They like knowing that they're not forced to go to a store if they need to get a last-minute birthday present. They can just Prime Now something, get it under an hour. They don't need to go to the grocery store in order to get food or dinner on the table. They can do Postmates, Instacart. They don't even need to go to the convenience store down the street on the same block if they didn't want to. They can just go to GoPuff and get that ice or cigarettes or whatever it is that you're looking for from the convenience store. All from your phone, saving time, saving money perhaps. So here we are in this place. Many brick and mortar retailers have realized, okay, we're not just a place where people come to convert anymore. In fact, they notice that half of the consumers that walk in the door, oftentimes they come in, they try something on, they're understanding the look and feel of a product to then go home and buy it online. How many times have you guys done this yourself? Yeah, I did it last week. So that being said, now you're telling me, okay, Elaine, I get it. This is the way of the future. Everyone's doing this, right? Everyone must be online. This is obvious. Well, what if I told you that less than a third of US small businesses actually sell their products online? I think we're seeing an opportunity there. So that being said, Kwontified was founded understanding that there's a disconnect here. Within these industries, brands are struggling to get online and do it well. And it's not just the startup brands, the ones that may not have a ton of money or capital to get started, but it's surprisingly a lot of the large, established brands that have delayed getting online and are now just trying to play catch up. And even then, even when they do finally do it, there's still a lot missing, there's still a lot not being done right, a lot of sales dollars that are being left on the table. And so, as a consulting firm, we've identified some of these trends of problems. And we work with these brands one-on-one to say, this is what's going on. Here is some of the proprietary data we've got, the analytics we've done. Here's our team. Now, we've worked and we've talked through quite a few things already. We've talked about the problem, the opportunity, some of the market size, even like a go-to-market strategy. But what have I not mentioned yet? Exactly. How do I get business? I'm a new consulting firm in an arena where people already think they might be able to figure it out themselves, but there's a lot of risk. But how do I get someone to trust me? How do I get a client to pay me? In a world where, again, we expect reviews, we expect history in order to trust. How do you build that when you are, in many ways, a startup? And for us, our personal approach was to implement a try, then trust sort of tactic. We enacted short-term contracts with many of our first clients and allowed them to try and then decide to trust. Allow them to understand how we work, see the short-term results, and then re-up with us if they realize or choose that this is the approach that they want to take. And so one of the things that I've definitely made mistakes in my first several negotiations was not being confident in the value, the price that I put on my services. No one can really tell you how much your time is worth. That's something you have to decide for yourself. Even when you break down the actual physical costs, you also have to think about how much time will it take for me to work on this and get the results I want And then how do I present that to my client? One thing I will definitely recommend, should you guys ever go into consulting or start your own business of this kind, is do not back down. Do not lower the price just because it may be an easier way to close. It is very easy to lower the price, but nearly impossible to raise it once you've done so. And the truth is, once you've done your due diligence and you know how much you should be asking for, if it's fair market value in your opinion, then be confident behind it and stand behind that. And so again, as someone who does have experience, but perhaps from different parts on the retail side, on the vendor side, now coming in as a consultant, in a way, we're kind of creating a new niche here. There aren't many people that are doing exactly this sort of work. It is a new frontier in this digital age. So just to tell you how I feel about it every day, just to illustrate that. So just a raise of hands, how many of you have started your own business? And how many of you hope to one day start your own business? So for a lot of you that have already done it, and for some of you that want to do it in the future, the first thing you should know is that it's not about getting it right until you fail. Sometimes it's about failing until you get it right. And you will go through many trials and tribulations. You will come across problems that will oftentimes seem impossible to solve, but you have to persevere and keep failing until you get it right. I hope that today's discussion on understanding an interesting B2B market sizing opportunity will help you understand the market size of your own opportunities in the future. Thank you. I worked with Gucci very closely at Amazon. And Gucci now, if you've looked at Business of Fashion or even People magazine, all the celebrities are wearing it. People are going crazy over Alessandro Michele's new style. But the truth is, even as of 2 years ago, that was not the case. Not only were consumers thinking, not buying Gucci in the same way that they had maybe 10, 15 years ago, but the brand was perceived as stale, as, you know, kind of doing the same thing. New consumers nowadays were not interested in it, but more importantly, they couldn't even access it online if they had wanted to. And the reason why was precisely what we were discussing. At the time, for many years, Gucci was afraid of losing control over its supply chain, specifically in the pricing arena, which is a very valid concern. If you don't have your supply chain completely tied up, which I have yet to meet anyone who has, it's easy to lose products into the gray market or the black market. And it's easy to start having other sellers undercut what you're trying to do with your brand. And ultimately, as I mentioned, it hurts your bottom line. You are the one paying the price for it. And so, you know, you can't stop innovation. You can't stop, in this sense, technology from continuing to develop. But they thought, maybe if I hold out, it won't hurt me. Maybe if I don't do this, I can continue living in this world that I've been living in and do what I know how to do. Unfortunately, they were slow to get on the bandwagon. And so when I was working with them, one of the pivotal conversations I remember having with the head of Gucci marketing, online marketing worldwide was, well, why can't you just fix this now? Why can't it just be done? Like, you know, do you need a quarter? Is that enough time? This is years of work that takes to build your online presence and then teach consumers they can buy from you and have that same experience or a similar experience that they have in a store. We're playing catch up here. So, I mean, again, at the time, that was pretty surprising for me. I thought, gosh, like, if a brand like this is this far behind, I mean, is this a unique occurrence or is this, sure enough, this was a pattern that we saw and witnessed with multiple brands over and over again. It's a great question. It really depends on, I would say, the industry, the exact product line you're in, as well as the price point. Like, what are you contemporary? Are you, you know, mass market? Are you high end? And we've seen that having a place where people can go to really touch and feel for the more expensive investment items, it still works. It's nice. In fact, large e-commerce platforms actually advise that you do that because it balances it out, because they know that showrooming happens, and they're okay if Nordstrom pays the cost for your counter space so that you can go buy it online from them later on. And so in many ways, it's understood to be part of that ecosphere for certain product lines. Now for others, it may not be necessary. There are quite a few, very successful products that are built completely online. Really important to also have consistent messaging in every single facet that you are publicly seen. A lot of times we know that this business that you're a part of or you're running is very complex. There are different messages depending on the question or depending on the problem you're looking at. But at the end of the day, you have to be telling your consumer, your potential investor, or whoever the same message no matter where they're looking. Everything. On a macro level, it's about our network, and then on a micro level, it's about relationships. And every day that I am not out there hustling, getting my name out there, getting our name out there, helping business understand what it is that we can do for them, and seeing if there's a fit, if there is a single day that goes by where I'm not doing that, I am up at night figuring out how I'm gonna do it the next day. There is so much that I wish I could squeeze into every minute, but prioritizing, I would say, at the end of it, prioritizing keeps me up late at night because like Ari said, you will continue to fail until you get things right, and you need to keep learning from it. So for me, I would say I'm continuously learning, how do I get better at developing this network to help the business? In the past, in the corporate world, it's about developing your network for your trajectory upwards, for getting more responsibility, getting promoted, having a bigger team, et cetera. But I had to shift my mentality as a business owner. It's not just about me anymore. It's very much, well, if I don't get this done, there is no more. So that keeps me up late at night. Well, I worked at a startup that had just completed Series A, about, I believe, around 15 people. They lured me away from my cushy corporate job in order to join them. What they offered me was equity, the ability to one day enjoy all of the fruits of our labor right now, and as well as a very, very fast track in terms of upward mobility. You're here today, you know how many years it's gonna take to get to what your goal position or goal team or goal responsibilities are. What if you could take a shortcut? You'll still be doing the work, you'll just be doing it in less time. And yes, it's a pretty intensive time, but if that's what you are interested in, that's what they can offer you. So those were the two main things. The other thing too is, again, when you're working at a startup and you vet it and you decide, okay, the business proposition here is really gonna work, then that also means you'll probably get to work very closely with the founder, the CEO, the founding employees, and that's also a great opportunity to fast track your career as well. And to reiterate your point, Ari, that's a really interesting, observation that I was told before I started this. I was talking to one of my very close friends who has started and sold businesses, and I said, what is one thing you don't think I've thought of that I should know? And he said, be ready for some loneliness. And I was like, at first I was like, really? That's interesting. But when you look at founders of companies, they're always surrounded by so many people. They're being talked about, published in different magazines or whatnot. How can they be lonely? But the truth is that it's very much the case. It's not uncommon. And that's why we do all have to network, get out there and help each other. Even when I first met Ari, I sent her an email soon afterwards. I was like, hey, can we get coffee next week?
Drinks.
We should talk, yeah. Drinks, okay. And so to answer your question, it's not always easy, and one should be definitely ready to be alone a lot with your thoughts. But it doesn't have to always be that way. It's good to get out there, and there's a great community spirit of helping each other out, which I love about the startup community. I'll answer first. I would say that in my particular case, it's a little bit, or at least right now, it seems just a little bit easier to stave off competition. I actually don't mind competition. I actually like it. I want to meet with other people who are interested in doing this and can do it better. Let's all talk. Let's see what we can do, because there's so many individual problems within the sphere that there's no one company that can address them all. And there's so many product companies out there. I mean, you can name probably, hundreds, if not definitely dozens of product companies out there that you could, you think, maybe they may need some help with their, online business. There's just a lot of supply out there. I would say that for us, one thing to be aware of is that at the end of the day, they're going to choose you if they trust you and they see results. That's really it. And in a way, it kind of helps stave off a little bit of the worry, because I know, hey, as long as I'm doing my job right, and if I seem like someone you can trust and you're willing to pay, then we can make this work.
Express our appreciation